All right, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight I want to talk to you a little bit about where my research and my practices have been going. Now, I've taken a little bit of a break from doing the spirits that I've been discussing lately over the last week or so. Um, Lately, I've been working on the seven lords of sin or the seven princes of sin and what they represent. But yesterday I did a book review, and today I want to do a video furthering knowledge of black magic. Okay. Now, as a traditional Satanist, a necromancer, and most importantly, a career black, dark sorcerer, I've studied a lot of different path workings, and I've studied a lot of different traditions, styles, and formulations of magic. And since I stepped back into necromancy and I started going through the old world traditions, such as Swedish, you know, Gaelic, Scandinavian, Baltic, Slavic witchcraft and sorcery. Studying the old gods, the old, the Fae, what is classified as the Fae in general. These old spirits like Chernobog in Slavic or the Elven within Irish and Germanic or even Scottish traditions. The vampire, the zombie, and the wraith, and all these beings. I've my path and my journey has led me into Slavic sorcery, which I've stated this before, and it led me into Voodoo. Now, I never really got fully into Voodoo because of the fact at the time, I was not connected to it. There wasn't a a calling, I guess you can call for. I guess you can call it a calling, an activation, if you wish. Now, in Voodoo, you either come from a hereditary family line where each generation serves the Loa in some capacity, or you simply are initiated into some faction of it. You could either be the third classification, which is the Bokor or the Boko, and you basically self-initiate, basically. And a lot of voodoo practitioners will sit there and basically say that's untrue. You're evil. You're whatever. Well, guess what? My own research into these three classifications has resulted in a lot of different commonalities, but most importantly, differences. And I thought I would take some time and kind of just explain some of the things that I've discovered. Okay. Now, as a black magician, a sorcerer of dark magics, I've chosen black magic because I relate to it. I love it. I love performing it, making stuff happen through sheer will and ritual, working with spirits of various different types. But since I got back into Voodoo, I realized that I guess you could say I got tapped on the shoulder by a Loa. Now, there are three classifications of Loa, which I did not previously know. Okay, on one hand, you have the main system, that everybody acknowledges, where you have to go through Papa Legba before you go into any of these other, these other lower. And then you got the second class, which are roughly the same, but just kind of like the offspring, the children, I guess you could say. Think of, if we're thinking angelology, think of the Nephilim. Okay, they're half angel, half human, and they really have that magical ability. But in this case, you're thinking more of the lines of the gods of Olympus, where they've had children and they become gods. They're actually born gods. Okay, the Loa fall into those two categories, and I'm not going to get into the subdivisions of what they classify as. Okay, now the third classification is known as the Gadi family. Okay, these are spirits that were not of the mainstream. They are not relatives of any ancestral lineage. These are lower that were elevated to that honored stature. Okay, and this type of lower normally sits just outside of the ritual room with their own ritual tables or ritual altars. Okay, and I found that very interesting because I had a vision while I was meditating, and it turned out Papa Gedi was the one who was reaching out to me. I had to go through numerous voodoo groups with the same question, the same depiction of who I saw. And they all confirmed that it was Papa Gedi himself, the first of the Loa within this third classification. Now, since then, I've been really delving into black magic within necromancy, anything I can find within voodoo systems that relate to black magic through sorcerers and sorceresses and the tools that they use. Because I had a feeling that they were very similar to what Satanists use, what witches and wizards use. Okay, and I was correct. And I started a journal that I thought would help clarify a lot of things. And I was going down through the ritual tools that are used and how they are seen. For an example, the Wanga is a curse that or a voodoo hex or spell. It is basically a powerful crossing. Okay. And hey Waldo, welcome to the video. And then you have the tools that they're used in, such as the Puan. It's Pouin. And then you got the Puan ceremony, the puppet, and such. And how the Wanga is actually viewed. And I found that very interesting because within any given system of sorcery, you have what is classified as white magic and black magic. So it only makes sense that in Voodoo, you're going to see the exact same thing. So you expect to see these overlapping commonalities. But to see where the Wanga is the tool, much like a gris bag or a hexing jar, if you wish, that holds all the items needed for a curse or a hex. The peon or puon, I'm not really sure how to pronounce it, is the complete opposite. It's like a talisman. It is a, how should I say this? It is a powerful voodoo magic spell and is extremely protective and usually very helpful. The evil counterpart of the Puan is the Wanga. Okay. Now, the Puan ceremony, on the other hand, is a special voodoo ritual used only for preparing of Puans to combat black magic. Okay. And as a friend of mine from Tractor Supply, or a former friend of mine, when we both worked for Tractor Supply, I found out that he was basically a pagan, and of course, I was a Satanist at the time. I'm still a Satanist, and he's still a neo-pagan, but it was kind of funny because of the fact that he jumped on this post of mine on Facebook, and he says, "I'm surprised you haven't come across her before, because this person before, because she's very renowned in our circles." Now, what I wanted to say to him was, I have heard of her. The thing that I didn't expect was the fact that she used black magic. Everything that I've dug up on her, everything that I've studied in the past within Voodoo showed that she was a white light practitioner. Now, Marie Levieux, or however you want to pronounce her name, is very well known within New Orleans voodoo. She was known as a voodoo queen. Now, I didn't realize that she actually utilized black magic. So that was a nice little surprise for me. Okay. And the tools and the items today in today's world, to see the list of what she utilized within her wangas, because she was very well known for her creation of the wanga. And the items, like I said, today it would make, most people cringe, because a lot of things today have been watered down. They have been so watered down that they look like, how should I say this? Fairy tales. Something that you see out of horror films, or that of what Christian ministers would would spew to you over the pulpit. Okay, such as, for an example, the little finger of a black person, or a dried one-eyed toad, the dried head. How should I say this? Who had died of suicide, which is the African American, by the way, or just a black person in general. The cat's eyes, an owl's liver, the rooster's heart. Okay, and just stuff like that. Okay, so I mean, when you get into things like, for an example, herbalism or graveyard dirt, flour, um, ritual fire, salt, magical plants, cornmeal, gunpowder. I mean, gunpowder is utilized within just about every single African Caribbean tradition that I've come across. I mean, Palo Mayombe uses it the most, but within their rituals. But I mean, all these other ones like Santeria, or Quimbanda, Umbanda, Voodoo, Haitian Voodoo, they use it too, because it's one of those things where they can ignite the seals. But then when you get into the practitioners' names, okay, and yes, you heard me right. The practitioners' names, the Bokor, or the Boko. Okay, Bokor, Bocor, or the Bokor, the Bokor, or the Boko, Boko. Okay, and I'm going to get into this one a little bit with you as well. And I think this one here really needs to be expressed, because I've gone through just about all the books that I have on voodoo, and I've gone onto a few sites that I found on Google that speak really, really well on this. And I've gone down through a few of the Facebook groups as well, and I've been kind of inquiring. I mean, I used to be friends on Facebook with Guy Creasy, otherwise known as a Bokor. Okay, so I mean he actually revealed quite a bit to me about what a Bokor is before he disappeared. I don't know if he got rid of his Facebook page or he just simply blocked me. I don't know because of my interest in Voodoo. But anyways, why don't I just read you what I found so far just on this alone? In the mainstream voodoo, they see the Bokor, as in the Bocor, as a witch doctor who creates powerful puans and is highly respected. The Bokor strictly deals with herbal remedies, which they incorporate into their puans and within other aspects. Okay. The Boko is a Membo or a Hungan who is extremely evil and protects only or practices only black magic and are considered experts within creating Wenga. Okay. So they're basically the experts in creation of these Grisgris bags, these black magic um, ritual tools for casting spells. Now, in Haitian voodoo, the Bokor is a voodooist who runs a peristyle. Now, I'm not sure what a peristyle is, but I'm pretty sure it's like a house. Okay. Because if it's anything like Palo Mayombe or mainstream voodoo, then it's got to be a house. It's got to be a specific sect. Okay. Because in Palo Mayombe, they how should I say this? There's different types of Palo Mayombe practices, and each house practices Palo a certain way. Okay, like Palo Monte or Palo Mayombe. Okay, two different practices, but they all originate in the Congo region of Africa and have spread throughout the slave trade throughout the world. So I'm pretty sure the peristyle is just another form of like a coven or a house. I'll look that up later and try to figure that one out. And or performs what is known as travay, Travay, like a mumbo or a hungan. Okay, without being initiated into a sect. In the Dominican Republic, a mama or papa, aka Boko, is seen in the same way as a mamba or hungan, just like in the Haitian traditions. Which I didn't realize that. I knew that there were two different countries that used to be one, and after the upheaval and I guess you can call it the Civil War if you wish, of that region, that little island, they became two nations. And I thought it was interesting because of the fact that to see how you have two different countries that have the same perspectives of the Bokor. That was something kind of cool. Because one, the Dominican Republic is basically Christianized, but there's also voodoo practitioners there who are considered to be whites. You know, they kind of look down on it a lot. But just like in magic in general within Mexico, it's the same exact thing. Or you can go to the Bible Belt here in the U.S. and you're going to see where magic is anything that's not Christianized is considered off limits, evil of the devil. So to see that, and then you got Haitian Voodoo, which is different sects and different encampments, different regions within Haiti. And I would recommend that you go underneath YouTube and type in Voodoo, Haitian Voodoo, or just voodoo in general, and you're going to get a wide range of videos from documentaries to actual um, practices. just on that alone. Very, very very inspiring and knowledgeable those videos are. Okay. The boko means to work with both hands. Okay. Now, I found this very, very interesting because of the fact that I just skipped 2 pages. Okay, that's kind of funny. Um, Basically, to work with both hands means that they get to use both white magic and black magic to heal or to destroy, such as a curse or a hex. Think warlock on this one within Hans Holzer's perspectives of witches, his book Witches, because he described a warlock as somebody, depending on their nature, can either heal or destroy, but they're for more or less a solitary practitioner who masters whatever they can get their hands on. Okay, so this is kind of like which is kind of cool because then it goes on, says the witch doctor, Mumbo, Hungan, and Bokor all serve the Loa with both hands. Okay? In term, the term Bokor refers to the leader of the Makaya division of voodoo, which originated in the Congo region of Africa. The Bokor is associated with the potion known as zombie powder. And trust me, researching that powder alone, magnificent. I mean, we're talking gases of toads, the natural venoms or poisons of tree frogs, and you're talking numerous different gallbladders from pufferfish. Okay, and everything else that's included in that remedy is unique to the individual practitioner. So that's pretty cool. And this contains, for an example, like I said, the pufferfish, which is the tetrodotoxin, the deliriant drugs such as the datura stamanium. I hate those medical terms because they're overly worded, pronunciation wise. But for the most part, the Bokor, they serve the lowers like Baron Semedi, Kolfu, Legba, and Simbi, and sometimes are known to work with the Grand Bois. Was it Bois? Bois? So I probably just butchered that Loa's name too. So I do apologize to the Loa if I did. The Bokor are sometimes on mostly chosen or are mostly chosen at birth and are delivered or believed to bear what is known as great ashi. Okay, this means power. Okay, kind of like ki or chi. Okay, and can be good or evil. Some refer to the Bokor as being the male priest version of the Hungan. One of the links that I found, the Clairvians Narcissi, a Haitian who was accused or thought of being kept in the voodoo state. In many cases, the Bokor is a lesser practitioner who sells his or her works for money, profit. They work with demons, perform spells for hire, and is the overall bad guy to the mainstream. Now, the female counterpart to the Bokor is known as the Caplata. Okay, that's Caplata. So I found that very, very interesting when studying this, because when you look at everything that you've studied throughout your career as a male witch, a warlock, as a traditional spiritual and theistic Satanist, as a Polaro, an overall practitioner, you see those overlays, but at the same time, you're learning something new. Now, to answer the question here, a couple of the books that I was referring to and researching tonight. One is by Sally Ann Glassman, and it's called Voodoo Visions. You have Haitian Voodoo by Mambo Chita Tan. This book is very insightful. It actually spoke to me on a personal level. And then you have the complete book of Voodoo by Robert W. Pelton. I like this book as well. I've read these books at least 5 times already, and I'm still amazed at how much I'm gathering from it because of the fact that these 3 books alone have a way of showing you different Loa with the different names, the different seals that they go by that can be drawn to invoke them, to summon them, and to worship them. But most importantly, they also show the herbalism, the terms, the overall education of these individual practitioners' viewpoints and practices. So by going by different ones, you're actually seeing the commonalities, but you're also seeing the differences. And I can tell you that I've got a lot of different PDFs on Voodoo. Okay, I've gone under numerous different sites on Google. Like I've said, I've watched and taken notes from various different YouTube um, videos and practitioners, from documentaries to personalized practices by actual practitioners. Voodoo, Bokor Leonard, for an example. I forget his last name offhand, but and I do apologize to the guy. You know, his practices are downright amazing. His knowledge of his craft, and like I said, look up Guy Creasy. His work as a Bokor is spectacular. I mean, he was the one that taught me that. How should I say this? You can start out by being initiated into Voodoo as a Mumbo or a Hungan, but there's also a different way. You can actually do book learning and become a Bokor. And what's ironic here is that something I didn't realize before was the fact that the Bokor can become one of these other two, and these other two can easily become a Bokor out of malicious intent. And so that was something that I found very interesting and inspiring because the way the way I was taught, the way I was shown throughout my practices through the practice through how should I say this through the gurus that I've learned from Tucson to Texas to Mexico to Canada, right here throughout the US that I've learned from, is the only time you use baneful magic is if there's no other way of that person learning from their mistakes. Okay? Otherwise, just treat them like a child. And it's actually true. A lot of these keyboard practitioners today are more talk than they are bite. They don't really know what they're doing. So you got to see them as being children. Some of them are downright laughable. But I would recommend these sources to you. I would also recommend going under, like I said, YouTube, Google. There's so many different PDFs out there that you can get into history, mythology, get into these other traditions like Santeria, Palo Mayombe, Quimbanda, um, even Hoodooism. Okay, trust me, Hoodooism is both black magic and white magic put together, and it's that tradition there is something that's very very unique to see. And one thing I've noticed about Voodoo is it's highly adaptive. It's always changing and it's always adapting. And as for the lore, there's always more lore being created or coming into context. So that's something to keep in mind as well. All right. So I want to thank all of you for Waldo, Lord, Satan's child maggot, and Pranjal Das for jumping on here with me. And I'll kind of keep you informed of my research and my studies. I'm not going to discuss my practices with you, but because that's something that you need to keep secret. But I will share with you the sources. I will share with you the insights that I've gathered throughout my studies and my experiences within these fields. That I will do. So with that in mind, I hope this has been educational. I hope it's been enlightening. And until next time, have a good night. And you are very much welcome, Pranjal. And you're welcome. Have a good one, ladies and gentlemen.